back from break. I hope you were able to step away from the screen for a little bit and at least take a bit of a breather. But we have one more module to cover today, and that last module is Dynamics 365 Sales. And the tools inside the sales module allow your sales team to build stronger customer relationships and close those deals faster. And what we'll look at are some of those different tools and how it can support all the different sales scenarios that are going to help your team make better decisions. So in our module 2, we explored the customer journey. In this module, we'll be exploring the sales process. This is the natural progression from the customer journey where your marketing team is identifying potential sales leads. Those leads are handed off to your sales team to qualify, develop, and ultimately provide a quote that'll lead to the sale of a product or service. However, the sales process can vary from organization to organization. For the sake of time, though, of this virtual training, we're going to be using the model you see here on the screen. And since this is fundamentals, a key component of the MB 910 exam is being able to identify and describe different components of the sales process. Now, if you want to review any of these, please make sure that you check out the learning path at aka.ms/MB910. But, let's just take 1 minute and review some of these terms. We've already discussed accounts, activities, contacts, as well as customers, both in Module 1 and in Module 2. These are going to work the same way in the sales module as well as the marketing module. But I do want to chat a little bit more about a lead. We briefly discussed leads last module, but just so we're all on the same page, this is some type of interest that a customer expressed. Now, this can come in the form of an email interest form or an incoming call. In fact, there's even ways for you to purchase lead sheets if you wanted to. But what your sales team is going to do is they're going to take these leads and then they're going to qualify them. Essentially what they're doing is they're trying to see how viable that lead is. And once that lead has been qualified, it's going to change from a lead to an opportunity. And your sales team is going to take that opportunity and use the existing product catalog, which we discussed in Module 1. And they're going to use that to develop a quote for your potential customers. And this is what we usually see as the first step in that proposed stage. And this usually is going to include any discounts on any type of pre-negotiated rates. But once your customer agrees to those terms of the quote, it then changes into an order. And that's then processed and then triggers the fulfillment process. Now, depending on the terms of the order, an invoice is going to be sent out before the goods are delivered, but it can also be sent out after. And kind of just think of this as the bill for the order. And all of these parts are pieces of the sales process. And the sales process is what makes up the sales pipeline. So I kind of want you to think of this as a visual aid that can help your sales team know exactly where they are on their sales goals or where they are at that particular moment. But the final thing that we have here are the competitors, which, are pretty easy to understand. These are other organizations who you might be going up against to close that deal and make that sale. Maybe they have similar products and services, or maybe they're priced lower than you. Either way, there's something that could be a potential blocker when it comes to closing that deal. And kind of what I want to do is put all that terminology into practice by looking at this sample sales process. So you see here on the screen, first what we're going to do is we're going to start with a lead. Our sales rep is going to either qualify or disqualify the lead. So if the lead is disqualified, the sales process stops right there. But if it's qualified, the sales rep is going to start to develop the lead into what we call an opportunity. The opportunity can be tied to an existing account or a contact, or you can create a new one even. But as the relationship is being developed, the sales rep will then create a quote or a proposal. And if that customer accepts the quote, it's going to turn into an order. And this is where we usually say the deal is closed. However, to fully finish out the process, the order needs to be fulfilled and billed. And so kind of what I want to show you today is how Dynamics 365 Sales can help you through every step of the sales process. The built-in tools are going to help you sell smarter and build better relationships. It also is going to free up the time of your sales team by automating some of those administratively burdensome tasks. The things that they're responsible for, like business cards or notes. And at the end of the day, it's going to boost your overall sales and productivity. So when we look at all of the different tools that are available, we have lead qualification and sales opportunity management to help build and manage your sales pipeline. And all of these tools can be easily configured to help support your sales organization's unique or, ever-changing needs. And this actually ensures that your organization can use modern selling tools and technology with your own proven sales practices. And we'll actually look at these in more detail later on. But I actually want to go back to Module 1, where we learned that Dynamics 365's customer engagement apps and other products like inside of Microsoft 365, like Teams, SharePoints, and other Office 365 tools can work together. Well, because of that, this allows your sales team to use the tools that they're already familiar with. And it also prevents any duplicate files or documents, from being stored in various locations, and it allows your team to collaborate in a single location. On top of that, the Power Platform can be used to automate some of those additional processes and really is going to help streamline those tasks. But the integrations, they don't just stop with the Microsoft applications. Remember that product catalog that we talked about in Module 1? Well, it isn't just designed to help your sales team know the costs and the available discounts, but it can actually be linked back with the finance and operations side of Dynamics to help build out those quotes and build out those invoices. Just remember, with sales inside of Dynamics, quotes, sales orders, and invoices can all be automatically generated from one another as you go through the process, which honestly makes it easier for everyone involved. And by leveraging all of the tools that are provided, your sales team can build those long-lasting relationships with your customers that honestly is going to help you generate revenue for years to come. But let's go ahead and look at your sales team and how they can use Dynamics to manage those different leads and opportunities. And, I promise you, I will show you how all of these tools work from the lead qualification stage to the order stage. But what we've already reviewed is the typical sales process. We start with the lead, it develops into an opportunity, and once you submit the quote, it's submitted, you submit and close out the deal, and it goes into fulfillment for billing and invoicing. But when you are in that qualify stage, you're trying to determine the viability of the lead. This is where you're gathering information about the lead and any related contacts. So let's say, for example, you're a sales rep and you're following up on an inquiry for information that maybe got submitted through your website. Well, that lead, you can actually connect it through some of the different features inside Dynamics to have it automatically added to the system as a lead. And we saw how you can see a timeline of any type of related activities, and it's the same thing in sales. So when your rep follows up on a lead, maybe a phone call, it's going to be tracked as an activity. And on the call, the rep might be able to identify like a key stakeholder or someone who's part of the decision-making process. And they can actually set that contact as a stakeholder for the account, which, if anyone else is involved, it could potentially make it easier as the sales process goes through. But also during that call, let's say, for example, the stakeholder mentions that they have previously purchased a similar product from a competitor. Well, your sales rep should know that they need to make a note of that in the lead. And this can actually help you when your sales rep or their managers are looking at new ways to move the sales along. Now, kind of the other tools that we look at when it comes to the lead qualification stage is what we call the assistant. And this is a handy dandy little tool that can help out with like reminders, around any upcoming meetings or appointments. And, if your reps maybe need that little nudge to follow up on a task, it can help them remind them. And this is all great and all. And, every organization, they still have their own processes. And Dynamics isn't trying to change the way you do business. You can even add your own procedures to the sales process. So if you require any type of compliance or particular steps that need to be completed before you move to the next step, well, you can absolutely set that as part of the qualification stage before it becomes an opportunity. Just to make sure everyone understands how the lead process works inside of Dynamics 365, I want to take a look at one more example together. So let's say we have a sales rep in our company named Tom, and he's at a trade show. And if you've ever been to a trade show, you know exactly how these work. This is the time where everyone's walking from booth to booth. They're getting their pens, their fidget toys, all sorts of fun swag, and they're also exchanging business cards. So let's say we have our own booth, and our sales rep, he's set up some sort of gift card drawing. So anyone who drops their business card in the jar, they'll be entered in the drawing. But after the event, Tom has a bucket full of business cards. And that's where he's taking all of them and entering them as a lead inside of Dynamics. But remember, some of those business cards may have been from folks who were actually interested in our organization and the product we're offering, but some of them may have also just dropped their card into the jar for a chance to win a prize. So what Tom needs to do is he needs to qualify these leads. And in order to do that, maybe he's using LinkedIn, maybe he's doing research on other related records to kind of understand the lead a little bit more before following up. And so that when he does call the customer, he's able to discuss their needs and, maybe he's learning who the decision makers are at that company. And while that's going on, Tom is capturing all of this information as an activity inside of Dynamics. And so after he gets off the phone, maybe then he's collaborating with all the other reps on the team. So, see if anyone else has had experience working with that particular customer. And one of Tom's colleagues, they knew that particular organization recently went through a massive management restructure and that there's probably going to be additional stakeholders who are going to be involved. And that information can then also be added to the lead. So let's say, maybe a week's passed and then Tom reaches out to schedule a face-to-face meeting where the relationship assistant can actually give him more information on the individuals they're meeting with. And so Tom is able to meet with some of the stakeholders, not everyone, but the meeting goes well. And so then the company shares that they might be interested in learning more. Tom thanks them for their time and he goes back to the office to qualify the lead. That lead just started as a business card in a bowl and now has been qualified and turns into an opportunity. And since all the work Tom has done so far has been documented inside of Dynamics, he'll be able to leverage the assistant to make sure he continues to build the relationship based off of all of those past interactions. And so when you do have a lead that turns into an opportunity, you go from the qualify step to the develop step in the sales process. And an opportunity is kind of viewed as a potential sale. And in order for it to turn into a sale, your sales team needs to develop the relationship to increase that likelihood of closing the deal. And opportunities are an incredibly important part of the sales process because this is typically where your sales team is spending most of their time and effort. And managing opportunity typically includes several customer interactions. So this is multiple meetings, phone calls, or different tasks. And in most cases, how well the sales team manager, looks and manages all the opportunities on their team with their sales reps, this can be a difference between a win and a loss. So if we were to go back, to our scenario with Tom, he's gone through the qualify stage and he's created an opportunity. Now, since he's in the develop stage, Tom is going to start collecting data that's required by his organization. So in this case, he's putting in the estimated close date, any type of budget information, and he'll also make a note of any products that the customer is interested in and start to pull pricing based off of the quantities and sale type. Any information, though, that Tom has entered in the qualify stage about the contacts or any competitors, it's all automatically going to transfer to the opportunity. So let's say then Tom is scheduling a lunch meeting with some of the key stakeholders for later on in the week. Now, before the meeting, the assistant tool can remind Tom of the meeting and actually shares a published article on the company. So during the lunch meeting, Tom may make a formal proposal or one can be requested. And when Tom gets back to the office, he's going to then move the opportunity to the proposal stage and generating a quote based off the pricing and the product catalog. That quote is presented to the company, they accept the terms, and Tom then advances the opportunity to close and sends the customer an order, and the opportunity is closed as a win. Now, in this example, the opportunity was a win, but that's only one of many different ways that you can actually close out an opportunity. It can be closed when there's a quote or when an order is created. But it also can be closed as a loss if, let's say, for example, a company chooses to go with a competitor. But what I want to show you is how easy this process can be. So let's go ahead and work through a lead and an opportunity inside of Dynamics 365 Sales. So we are back inside of Dynamics, but I want you to make note that I am no longer in the marketing app. I'm in the Sales Hub now. And it looks similar, but here what we're going to do is we're first going to create a lead. So let's say, for example, we're at a trade show and we're collecting those business cards. Right now, I don't have any leads. So I can go ahead and create one. Now I'm creating it manually. You can set it up so if there's maybe event registration or an interest form that it automatically comes over, but this is the manual process. So maybe we are saying wants to buy new product for office. All right, so that's kind of like the summary of our conversation. And in this case, I was talking with a gentleman named Duke and their last name, Campbell. All right, and they work as the office manager for a company. We don't have their phone number. Maybe I don't have their business card. Maybe it was just kind of scribbled down on a piece of paper. But they mentioned that they work at, let's say that they told me that they worked at Millie's coffee shop. All right. And again, the thing that you'll notice that's nice about leads is that you don't have to have all of that information. Really, it's just about collecting, hey, there may be a potential interest here, and that's why we need to be able to qualify or disqualify it. So I don't have anything else. And so all I'm going to do is I'm going to select save. So that lead has been created for Duke Campbell. Now, maybe I give Duke a call after the trade show. So what I can do is on that timeline, I can add a phone call. And I can just say follow up from trade show. And, maybe Duke sent me a text, and so I got his phone number. And Duke said he would like to see product listing. So Duke's let me know that, hey, I kind of want to check out your whole product catalog, and I know that I need to send that over. So I'm going to go ahead and save and close. And I've already had that phone call, and what's cool with Dynamics is your sales team can actually kind of use this as their own to-do list. So this could actually be done, proactively, like, hey, I need to call Duke or I need to call all these different reps, but I've already done it, so I'm going to go ahead and close the activity. And you can see that I made the phone call, so I'll close it out. So you can see that it's already been done. Now, since Duke told me that, hey, he wants to check out that product listing, I'm going to go ahead and qualify this lead. I know that this is a potential sales opportunity. So under the qualify, what I'm going to do is this is not an existing contact or anything, so I don't have an existing account to add him to. But I do have him as a decision maker because he's going to be the one buying this for his office. So I can move it to the next stage. But you notice here that there is no opportunity. So if I wanted to have it automatically create an opportunity for me, I can manually create one, but I want all of this information I've collected on Duke to transfer over. So I'm going to go ahead and select qualify. Now notice, I don't know if you're paying attention, over here on that left-hand side, we're no longer under leads. we're now under opportunities. So we have now created a contact record for Duke. We've now created an account for Millie's Coffee Shop. These did not exist before, but because I took a lead and turned it into that opportunity, all of that same information was brought over with me. Now, if I wanted to, let's say, for example, I now need to add a task, and it is to send over the product catalog. All right, and I'm gonna go ahead and save and close. And if I wanted to, I could add a due date. But in this, if I'm syncing it with any of my other Microsoft Office applications like Outlook, this could be added to my task log inside of Outlook as well. But this lets me know that this hasn't been done. So if I have anyone else, on my sales team, so let's say, for example, that Duke has a connection with, let me see here. Let's see. I think Duke mentioned that he had worked with Jim before, but it doesn't look like Jim's on my sales team, so he wouldn't necessarily be on there, but he also mentioned that he works with Jeff. So I'm going to go ahead and add Jeff. Jim's not on our team, so I'm not going to add him to it. If I wanted to, I could link that information. But then, if I wanted to, I could add any competitors. So lets me know, they've worked with Coho Technologies in the past, so I want to make sure I'm linking them as a potential competitor that we need to be aware of. And so anybody like Jim or James, anyone who's on my team, they can come in and see we have outstanding tasks or there's any upcoming meetings. And this is also if I was working on any quotes, I wanted to start to build out a quote. It's not a proposal yet. It's just a chance for me to add any product lines. I can do that here. Or, any kind of one-off projects or products that they might be purchasing. So this allows me to keep all of that information together. And I can also, if I wanted to put in any type of estimated close dates or estimated revenue, it would let me do that. Now, I'm not going to go run through the entire sales process with this one account, but let's say, for example, we did create a quote and we did send it out as a proposal, and ultimately we won the opportunity and they purchased from us. Well, what I can do is, if I were to follow the lead, we have the timeline that will walk me through everything. It will finally close it out, or I could just select it, close it as one. And when I close it out as a win, I can put in the total revenue. So let's say that we made $75,000 from this order. I didn't have any competitors. I don't need to add any descriptions. I'm just going to click OK. And now you can see that this is going to be now as a one record. So if I were to go back to my list of opportunities, I don't have any open opportunities. But if I wanted to go to my closed opportunities or my closed as one, you can see here, Millie's Coffee Shop with a close. Like I said before, the qualify and develop stage, this is where your team is going to be spending most of their time. But that's just part of the process. Remember, our goal is to close the deal. So let's go ahead and take a look at how you can go from opportunity to quote to order to invoice. And when your sales rep is developing the relationship, they're collecting all sorts of information that's going to help move the deal towards a sale. And when that customer is ready for that formal proposal, it's going to have the product, the pricing, and all of the payment details, and your sales rep needs that in order to create the quote. Now, a quote doesn't always have to come from an opportunity. They can be created manually, and you can do it all on their own. However, the cool thing is, when that quote is generated from an opportunity, all of that information collected during the develop stage, like pricing, like discounts, and all of that, it's going to be automatically imported into the quote. And then your reps can decide what they need to add or remove based off of the conversation. And this is important because usually that first quote isn't the one that the customer accepts. Oftentimes you have to go back and forth with the revisions. So let's say, for example, you have a company who says that they want 10 of our products. But then throughout the conversations are like, let's hold off on 4 of them until the end of the calendar year. It's easy enough to adjust the line items and then resend the quote. But I do want to bring up one important point. Once you activate a quote, you can't make edits to it. But if you do need to make changes, what you would do is you would close the original quote and then open up a new version and make those changes. Then you would activate the quote again before sending it to the customer. And this is really just to make sure that everyone can see the revision and make sure that everyone's working off the most recent quote. But once your customer has the quote and they sign off on it, it can be closed. And then the order is generated. And if the quote was generated from an opportunity, you can close it out from an opportunity as well. And that's kind of what I did in the demo. But I do want to make sure that you know after a quote is accepted, you're not going to go back and make any revisions to that quote. But so you have your customer, they've signed off on the quote, and they place an order. And an order, this is just the commitment from a customer to buy the products or services. And most of the time, orders are going to be created as a direct result of an accepted quote. But again, you absolutely can create each of these steps on their own as well. Now, when you have quotes that are converted to orders, all of the contents of the quote are added to the order record, and then the quote is closed. So you can kind of see how it moves along. And then, once the order is placed, it needs to be fulfilled. And what this does is this isn't, providing the services or products that the customer has asked for in the order. And then once the order has been fulfilled, you can create an invoice. And this is how you ask for payment from a business. So when an invoice is created, all of the products that were associated with the order, they're all automatically going to be added to the invoice. And if you wanted, you absolutely could add other products or services after the order has been created. And once the customer pays their invoice, it kind of with the payment, it depends on the terms of the billing. So that's usually part of like the contract or the quote. Do they have to pay it all up front? Can they do partial payments? When are they due? That's going to be more of a finance decision, but all of that can be notated on the invoice. But, what I hope you see kind of as we've gone through today is that Dynamics is here to help you manage the sales lifecycle and provide a solid foundation for your organization to qualify sales prospects and convert them into revenue. But just like what we saw in marketing, sometimes you need additional functionality that Dynamics 365 just doesn't have. And that's where you can connect to different applications. So when it comes, to developing opportunities, you're really looking for information on the organization and any of those contacts that are involved. You want to know your competitors so you understand who you're up against. You want to know who the stakeholders are and who your decision makers are going to be when it comes to making a deal. And you want to leverage the information that your teammates have, whether it's informal or formal. And while Dynamics 365 can help with some of this, you want to avoid cold calling every single lead that came across your sales team's desk. And wouldn't it be nice if you could identify your target prospects and have all of their information that could potentially help develop the relationships? Well, allow me to introduce you to Sales Insight and the LinkedIn Sales Navigator. Dynamics 365 Sales Insights is a tool that analyzes your existing customer information inside of Dynamics. And it looks at how often you interact with your customers or how often they're reaching out to you. It'll look at, let's say, any sales or upcoming activities. And all of this information is going to help you better understand the relationships with your customers and how you can repeat actions that led you to success in the past. So let's say you have an opportunity that you haven't been able to connect with in a few weeks. Maybe you're working on other opportunities. What Sales Insights can do is it can actually just tap you on the shoulder and remind you that you're not communicating with them as often and that relationship may be slipping. It can also provide you with some different communication topics that might help personalize the interaction. And the way it works is it's looking at all of the data that you have. So let's say last time you did talk to them, they mentioned they were going on a ski trip in 2 weeks. And this was all said in an email. Well, that email was captured as an activity inside of Dynamics. So when you reach out, Sales Insights maybe will throw out a suggestion like, ask them how their trip was. And with Sales Insight, you can monitor the overall health of your customer relationships by identifying relationships that might be in the danger zone. And this can help you start rebuilding relationships before it's too late. And then finally, the other one that I want to talk about today is LinkedIn Sales Navigator. And we discussed this a little bit in Module 2. LinkedIn is a great way to find leads and connect with future customers. But when you link Dynamics with LinkedIn Sales Navigator, well, you can gather all sorts of different insights on your contacts. Think about it. Did a key stakeholder change jobs and move to a different company? Well, instead of having to create a new contact in Dynamics, the two records can actually be synced together. Or, let's say you're looking for a warm lead into a target company. You can look at the company's executive lists and see who your mutual connections are, and potentially who can make an introduction and avoid a cold call. Essentially, any data that's on LinkedIn can be pulled into Dynamics. If you send a message to a contact at a company, that message will be tracked as an activity in Dynamics. Or on a contact record, the LinkedIn profile picture can automatically be linked to create a personal connection with your customers. But what I like and what I think is really powerful is by having all of this information in one place, it makes it easier to extract those insights. For example, if you combined Dynamics 365 components like Sales Insights, you could see what a potential buyer is interested in based on the content they are sharing on LinkedIn. And you can look at the discussions they are participating in. Or, if your sales team, they can set up real-time alerts for when prospects connect with someone in their network, or maybe they're mentioned in the news. As we wrap up our last module of the day, what I hope is that you've learned that the entire life cycle, whether it's sales or marketing, can be supported with tools inside of Dynamics 365. But it doesn't just stop there. We do have applications like LinkedIn, Sales Navigator, Sales Insight, but what you can do is you can create an adaptive selling solution that's, at the end of the day, going to help you build long-term relationships with your customers. But that pretty much wraps up everything I have for you today. And quite frankly, we've covered a lot. Don't worry, the fun isn't totally over. We still have part 2, where we're going to look at customer service, field service, and project operations inside of Dynamics 365. However, if you are dying right now for more, don't forget about the free learning path on Microsoft Learn. You can find videos, additional documentation, and a sandbox environment to play around with these tools yourself. And all of this is available at aka.ms/MB910. That's aka.ms/MB910. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you back here for part 2. Bye.